Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Phil Risher, and on today's episode, we are diving into how home service businesses can scale efficiently and eliminate communication chaos with Ron Nussbaum. Thanks so much for joining us today, Ron.
Hey, it is fantastic to be here, Phil.
Yeah, for sure. Ron Nussbaum, CEO and founder of BuilderComs, a communication platform designed to simplify customer interactions and team coordination for construction and home service businesses. With over a decade of experience in residential construction and leadership, Ron understands the industry's unique challenges and is on a mission to eliminate communication chaos. He's also the host of the Construction Champions podcast and the author of Buying for Exit, helping business owners scale smarter and more efficiently. Ron, can you give us a little bit of background of how you got into construction? I know you were in the Marines for a little bit, and then you ended up getting into construction. Can you tell us a story about that?
Yeah, so I was in the Marine Corps, and my plan was to be in the Marine Corps. We got back from Iraq. We were on our Afghanistan workup, running some night training, and I ended up blowing my knee out, and that was it for the Marine Corps at that point in time. So I ended up in Michigan, where my wife was from,
Wow.
and I was trying to figure out, like, how do I train? Like, what is the next step? Because, like, my
Mhm.
next step was the Marine Corps, and that was no longer an option. And I
Mhm.
found this ad on Craigslist for a foreman in training,
Wow.
and it took me like 2 weeks to apply. Finally, like, I had to look in the mirror and be like, damn it, Ron, if you want to be a foreman in the construction, you can. Like,
Mhm.
even though I have no past experience, I'm like, you're a United States Marine. If that's what you want to go do it. I applied for the job. I ended up getting it. The guy that owned the company was 82nd Airborne and
Oh, wow.
loved Marines. Everybody else he was hiring had construction management degrees, except for Ron Nussbaum with his barely high school diploma in Marine Corps service.
Yeah.
And the rest is really history. I fell in love with it. Like, I found
Mhm.
a home. I found that brotherhood, that camaraderie that I was looking for on a job site,
Yeah.
and that led me down the road, and I've never left. I'm now that was 2010, and we're in 2025 here, so coming up on 15 years being around this industry. Uh, so I found my second home.
Wow, that's amazing. That's something that I struggle with a lot now because I used to be in the trades as well, and it was like so much camaraderie in there. And now we're all remote business, and it's like, how do you still build that culture and camaraderie? And it resonates a lot with me, and it's great that you were able to find this team and build that relationship. Did you end up going and working there, and then end up starting your own company, or what were you? You were a foreman, or what ended up transpiring with that?
So I've done everything from running the jackhammer to running the company,
Oh
bought
wow,
and sold a couple of companies. I've done all kinds of different
yeah,
things.
that's pretty
Uh,
cool.
we we scaled from a few million a year to over 20 million in revenue.
Wow.
Uh, been there, done it. I've checked a
Yeah.
lot of boxes along the way. I guess I
Yeah.
got the wounds and the scars to show.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So I guess along this path, so the theme for this episode is about scaling efficiently and eliminating communication chaos. So I would imagine, well, one, scaling from a couple million to 20 million, there's going to be a lot of communication chaos going on, systems, processes breaking down. How did the thought process come up for Builder Comms? What kind of led you to that?
Yeah, so at its core root, I got tired of getting my ass chewed in driveways and not having any of the information. But
Mm,
what it really came down to was I had a vision to go to 100 million.
mm,
And the biggest bottleneck I had was communication,
mm,
team communication, client communication. We were using all of these different services from Gmail. You got Microsoft Teams. I got Slack channels on job sites, people using WhatsApp, text messaging.
mhm,
It was just way too messy. And I was like, how is this ever going to be doable? Like, it's a major pain now. We feel like we're great at it, but we're failing. It's the same complaint I hear over and over is like, your community, like, if the communication was better, we wouldn't be standing here having this problem. And one night I was laying in bed and it just hit me as like, I need a piece of software that works as air traffic control for our communication. If we are going to scale the unscalable, communication, because it's looked at as like it was just a pain point that costs the industry $30 billion a year, but it's like nobody wants to do anything about it. And
Yeah.
I wasn't just going to stand there and do nothing, because I knew every time I added a crew, I added another communication headache. And I
That's right.
didn't want to do that. I wanted to be able to add crews, add revenue, and still eliminate the communication problems within the business.
Yeah, that's completely right. So when I was in the trades, we have 40 technicians, and it's like, okay, how are we going to communicate with all these guys? They don't come back to the shop. They're out running around. We're going to change a process. We're going to change a system. So it's like, okay, well, let's get Slack. Then we can add everyone in there. We have all team different channels and stuff, and we can send stuff out. But then it's like, well, what about job site pictures and communication? Does that go in the CRM? And then how does that correlate and connect all the dots? Is that kind of the what was hitting you was like all that is the issues with things?
Yeah, I mean, we had no tool that was designed for us in the
Yeah.
industry. We were trying to make other stuff work. Most project management softwares either don't do this or they just suck at it.
Yeah.
And there was just no genuine solution for the construction space when it came to this. You had to build you had to take something and then try to make it work. And we all
Yeah.
know in this space, that's a complete pain in the ass.
Exactly. So let's say someone is, running a home service construction business and they're trying to scale and they're thinking about how can I better communicate with my team. Your app aside, what are some of like the basic communication things that people usually run into or use a communication channel like this for?
Okay, so my favorite thing to talk about is because
Okay.
there's a lot of things you can do to fix
Yes.
communication, like
Yes.
expectations, not just with your customers, but with your team. Clear communication just comes down to being able to set clear expectations and then follow through on those, be able to hold people accountable. Like that's the foundation. And
Okay.
for the construction industry, we have to start speaking in ways that people understand. Like we talk in a lot of jargon, we talk in a lot of ways that people, even employees, don't necessarily understand. We have to eliminate that. We
Yeah.
just have to talk. Like me and you are having a conversation right now. That's all communication is. Is like we're just having conversations. It's
Yeah.
not that. It's not rocket science, but for some reason we tend to be really bad at it. We tend to sit back and be like, I'm not going to have that conversation. Damned if I do, damned if I don't. I'm just not going to have it. And that is a mistake. And what I like to say, and what I've found, is about 80% of people we deal with have no idea what we do. 10% of them think they do.
Yeah.
5% might. And then 5% actually do understand what we're doing. So when we start thinking about communication in those numbers, we have to be very simple about how we communicate with people about what we're doing.
Yeah. I agree. Can you give an example for expectations with an employee? How can someone better communicate or use an app or tool to better communicate expectations with their team?
Yeah, so be clear. Let's talk about. So you have guys in the field.
Yeah.
You have office employees. Expectations have to be set with both of them, because here's what happens is office employees don't understand what's going on out in the field, and the field employees think the office staff is just there to be a pain. That's wrong. Like that's set clarity around this for all parties. Sit them down, because that was a major friction point for a while for myself until we sat everybody down and we had a conversation about, if you don't do this in the field, here's how it negatively impacts the next person's job. And the same thing with the office staff is, if you don't communicate this effectively to the guys out in the field, this is how it negatively impacts them. So you have to create clarity around that and set those expectations of this is just how we do it here. And this is why we do it this way here. And that creates transparency for everybody. And it also creates a world where people actually understand why you're asking them to do certain things.
Yeah, as you're sharing that, I'm thinking of those exact examples. So someone you have technicians out there that their job's taking a little longer than they thought that it was going to take, so they need to be proactive about reaching out to the customer service representative to let them know that their next job is going to be a little bit delayed. Can they reach out to the client to let them know? And it's kind of this trickle effect. And then there's this friction because the customer service rep gets frustrated with the technician gets frustrated with this, and there's no real plan in place. It's just this communication that you think is supposed to happen, but there's no, here's the game plan. If your job's running late, you need to do these things. Then customer service rep, you need to do these things. Call the customer, text the customer, let them know the ETA. There's all these things that have to happen that is never really communicated or a process in place. It sounds like is what you're saying.
Yeah, because the office staff is probably sitting there like this guy just thinks I have nothing better to do all day long than follow
Exactly.
up with his customers, and the job site person is knee deep. Like they're
Exactly.
out there in the struggle. The struggle can be real when you're in the field. And coming from my military background, is I believe in just training, and you train for the worst and create that muscle memory. So you have to do that. You have to role play. You have to train people on what happens in these situations so they have a fundamental skill set they can fall back on when everything is going wrong on the job site. You need to have those guys know how to communicate that with who needs to be communicated, whether it's the customer that's there, whether it's the office staff. You have to have a core foundation that this is what we do when this happens, and that you have practiced it so guys just automatically fall back to it. Like it's just second nature when they're running behind to send that message to the office staff, or if they're responsible for letting the next homeowner know, they need to reach out. Like there's I hate to use the word protocols because that's not
Yeah.
necessarily, it's just a system. Like this is just
System.
how
Yeah.
we do it. And I always like the buzzwords I just try to stay away from, especially when I'm talking with employees. And I just really lean into like this is just how we do it. Like this just makes sense. It makes your life easier. It makes everybody around you's life easier. We just need to be willing to communicate what is happening, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, because that's just what we do.
That's right. So for business owners, from what I'm hearing from you, is the recommendation would be go back and audit the internal friction communication points in your day-to-day business, which would be, technician or employees running late. What's the protocol for that? Someone's going to be late for a job. What's the protocol for that? Someone doesn't pay the invoice on site. What's the protocol for that? All these friction points that are happening in the business on a day-to-day basis that can compound as you continue to scale. You need to have a system or game plan in place that everyone knows the expectation of what's supposed to happen at these stages.
Yeah, absolutely. Like
Yep.
if like when I go back to what I said about what happens when you add another crew, all you're doing is compounding your problems.
That's right.
You're adding more revenue, but you're compounding your problems that you haven't fixed. So we need to be proactively fixing the problems as we're rolling out more crews or more techs. Otherwise, you're just creating more of a mess. And the more of that we can fix along the way, the easier it is every time you roll out a new tech or a new crew.
That's right. And here's to kind of to bring this full circle. The issue lies in, do I send a text on my personal phone to this person as a text on my personal phone? Do I Slack this person? And how do I get that over to this customer? And there's all these different parts of communication that are friction points that if there was a system to streamline this would solve that. Which kind of leads me into the next one, which is expectations with the customer. There's a lot of opportunity for this, in my opinion. But what are some of the big ones or things that you talk about or see a lot of?
I think the biggest one that I have found, and just table stakes, is we need to ask the customer when we show up there, what is your expectations for how am I going to communicate with you? Or do you want walk through in the middle of the job, at the end of the job? My goal was always to keep the client out of my job site and make it so we could actually do the work, because a lot of times the customer can be the hold up.
Yeah.
So if you ask these questions at the beginning, you say, hey, we're going to be working. We're going to have tours. Like, it's not an environment that we can have people coming in and out of. I need to know what your expectations are on how we're going to do the communication, why I'm here on site, and set that up from the beginning. Like, this is low hanging fruit, but most times we show up and we're just like, hello, Mr. Homeowner, Mrs. Homeowner, we're here to replace your AC unit. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
And we don't do any of it. Now they're left. So what do? They're constantly walking in and out of when you're trying to replace this AC. And all that does is delay your project, because they have questions that you could have proactively answered, and you could have set it up as, hey, I am going to come get you in an hour and a half to show you where we're at. Does that sound good with you? And they're going to know in an hour and a half, I will be able to ask my questions, because people think of stuff all the time. And what do? They walk out and they get the supervisor, they get the foreman, and then they need to have a 20-minute conversation. We need to be able to table that stuff, answer the pending questions they have, and table everything else until the appropriate time on the job. And we can do that up front. It's just having a very good pre-job routine that you do on every job.
Yeah. I can't agree more. When we were trying to get, 5-star reviews, we kept getting this feedback that when I worked at an air duct cleaning company and we sent out crews, 2 techs, and usually they go to someone's house and usually there's one person home to let them in. And what they would do when they went in was one went to their master bedroom, one went to their basement. And the homeowner's like, oh, who do I follow? Where do I go? What do they want? How do I make sure all this stuff's happening? So we're like, okay, first tell them one person's going to go here, one person's going to here. Here's what we're going to do. Tell them the game plan, because especially if you have 3 or 4 people and you're doing an install or something, you have people scattered all over the house. And if they don't know what's going on or who they should be talking to or following, it's a big mess of communication. The customer doesn't feel confident in what's going on.
100%.
Yeah.
And the problem is like you just said, is like we bring that on ourselves.
Exactly.
We're literally shooting ourselves in the foot when we step on the job site, when we could easily have a checklist of like, this is how we do it. Every job, check these items off, and then do the job. We're talking literally about adding 5 minutes to the beginning of the job to save possibly hours. Yeah. And that's like we were all performance-based pay. So I had to get my guys to realize I am making you more money by doing this.
That's
like,
right.
I was a foreman. I walked in those boots. I understood what they were trying to do. But what I also understood is when I was proactive at the beginning of the job with my customers left me alone. They let us do all work. And when I was supposed to go get them, I would go get them. And then that is when we would have conversations around the project. I could give the guys a break at that point in time. I could work with the customer, and then we could get back to doing what we were there to do. And that was the actual work with nobody in the way. Yeah.
I think making it a positive for the technicians. So what we would tell them is like, hey, you get, $10 for getting a 5-star review. This is going to almost guarantee a 5-star review. If you set the expectation, you tell them your name, you let them know when they can ask questions, you show them before and after pictures at the end and communicate well. There's no way you can't make an extra $10 on every single job. I think putting it as a benefit for them and not something that's, oh, okay, boss, it's another thing I have to do every day and blah, blah, blah. I think that's a really big piece that most people miss. Can you talk a little bit about BuilderCom? What problems does it solve? Because a lot of people, like we do marketing consulting, they add us to their Slack channels and we see before and after pictures and stuff, or they share in their all team different things. but there's a missing layer with documents being shared and other things I could imagine. So what does it look like as far as what does BuilderComms do and how does it help people solve these problems?
Yeah, so our three critical areas where we thrive is in that communication element, getting all of your messages for every project in one place, and then we organize them by project. The
Mm.
pictures that are associated with those and the documents. We have the ability to bring the customer in, your team in, and then we just simply work as air traffic control. We have channels of communication so the right people are talking to the right people. One of the problems we run into is homeowners don't know who to talk to at your company. You
Mm.
have somebody come out there that does the sale. Then next thing,
Mm.
the installation crew showing up. In between that, the company, all they have is that sales rep's number or the office number. And typically those are two bad people to talk to before the
Yeah.
project starts.
Yeah.
So we need
Because
to
they
make
have no
sure that,
idea.
yeah, they need, I used to pick up the phone all the time and people would be like, hey, I was on your website. You look like the guy to talk to. I was like, I am the worst guy ever to talk to here. Let me
Yeah.
figure it out. But what we need to do is empower the homeowner. So through builder comms, if that homeowner has a question prior to the project, they can reach out in the general or project management channel and actually ask job specific questions. Because one of the things I would find is I would have crews sitting on the job site and the homeowner wants to change stuff that
Mm.
impacts our timeline.
Definitely.
That creates a delay. Now I have to reschedule stuff. We might have to order other things just because that homeowner said to themselves, I don't know who to talk to, but when they get out here, those guys on the job site will be able to answer my questions because homeowners have an amazing trust factor for the guys on site. Like the guys doing the work, the homeowners look, these are the experts. They do it every day. They can answer my questions. So how do we get the customers to talk to them before we empower them? And what guys do with BuilderCon is they just tell the customer right at the point of sale is you're going to download the BuilderComms app. That's how we're going to communicate. If you have any production questions or any installation questions, you're going to reach out in this channel and they're going to be able to answer them in real time before we even come out there. It's not, don't worry. It's not me that
Yeah.
would be answering them. We have superintendents and production managers that would be able to, that have spent time in the field and actually understand what's going on out here that would be able to answer any of those questions for you. So now when crews show up, they can actually do the job because homeowners are empowered to ask questions prior instead of during. We have scheduling channels built in there. So if that customer needs to change the schedule, they're not talking to your
Yeah.
receptionist. They're actually talking to the person that handles the schedule. They can get it changed in real time. Everything is documented. Boom, bada bang. And from an ownership perspective, from a management perspective, you have the ability to know everything that's happening on every project within about 5 minutes because you just go into that project. You can see what is the homeowner said, what is the team saying, what is actually happening, and now you have a full picture of that project. So if something does happen, you go out there, you know everything. You're no longer standing there with 20% of the information at best to try to solve a problem. And our time is very valuable. For
Yeah.
us to be out on a job site dealing with a customer, that becomes even more costly than having the crew sitting there doing nothing because our job is to grow the business. So we need to eliminate those pain points. And that is what Builder Comms does.
Yeah. The problem from what I'm gathering from you, the number one thing that I would see is from a reporting perspective and a roll up perspective. As you scale, you can't go from fire to fire and try to unravel everything. It's going to take you a day or 2 days to try to figure out what's going on. With this, it's not like you can just go into a project and look at all the notes and figure out what's going on and very quickly diagnose, oh, we missed a step right here. Here was where the miscommunication was, which for my business it was something that was very hard for us because we do all these virtual meetings and I don't know what people are saying in these meetings or not. So so we got a Fathom, which would allow us to record the meetings, get us notes. That way every I can see a roll up of everything and know what's going on very quickly, and I don't have to try to figure out unravel this whole thing. And with this, I could imagine the customer now, they have a channel that can communicate. They're not just texting the foreman or something like that. It's all documented in the business. There's probably pictures, the scope of work, all that stuff is all in one place. Sounds like.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
becomes a data central of what's happening on that project in
Yeah.
real time,
Yeah.
not pre, post. It gives us actual data that you can then make business decisions off of. Like you start to learn stuff about your business that we could never learn before because you never had it centralized. So
Yeah.
now you can go in there and you can actually see what are the problems, what are customer complaints, what's the
Yeah.
hold up in the sales process. And instead of, we used to sit down in these management meetings and everybody had theories.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it's this. This is what I'm hearing. This is what I think. And I'm like, you can't build a business off of feelings and what you think. Like, I want data. So
Yep.
now we create that data. So we have it, and you have the ability to be able to go in there and search it out and actually figure out, like, no theories, no feelings. Like, here's the hard facts about what's happening in our business and how what we need to change or what we need to look at in real time.
Yeah, man. This is amazing. And the reason I think it is amazing is because with Fathom, as I mentioned before, what we do with our stuff is like when I go into my one-to-ones with our team, I just go to all their calls from the past week and I say, what was all the issues that they encountered on these calls? Where did they miss the mark? And then when I go into my one-to-one, I have the real receipts of issues that are happening and the common themes that we're seeing. Which what you're saying is instead of these feelings and emotions, now you can just go and analyze and literally just probably ask an AI prompt like, hey, what are the common hiccups in our customer journey? What do we need to fix? Also taking that and turning it into marketing stuff for the common issues that people run into and how we solve. There's like a million different things that you can do once you get that data, it sounds like.
Yeah. So, I mean, from a marketing perspective, think about, is you're the head marketer and you now truly understand what the customer objections are
Yeah.
because you're using this as a sales tool. Those conversations are happening and you can go in there. And this is what I love about AI is because AI is an unbiased third party. So now you're looking at real-time data with an unbiased third party scraping through it.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to tell you what's wrong with your business.
Yep.
It's going to give you the ability to then market where customers are feeling the most pain or what they are looking at as being the objections in the sales process so you can cover those objections before your sales guys even show up out there.
Yeah, that's right. And even on top of that, if you have breakdowns in your communication process, it'll be very easy to find them because it's going to tell you last week you had 10 of these same objections that you need to fix this in your process because your customers are asking what's going on with this thing.
Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah.
and I'm an efficiency guy. I'm an
Yeah.
operations side guy, and I look at it as, okay, so now I can figure out, like, where are we dropping the ball and losing time? What are the things that we can tweak that I don't even know about? Like, that's the thing. Like, this, it will surprise you once you start to collect this data and then you start analyzing it. The stuff that comes up is stuff you're not even thinking about that
Yeah.
literally makes everybody's life in and around your business better.
Yeah. And it sounds like it sounds like it's a good fit for anyone who's doing maybe like 2 to 5 day jobs plus, year long jobs, custom home builds, whatever. Because then you're gonna have multiple people touch points and all this stuff, and it gives you a communication for that. But if you're running like 3 or 4 jobs a day, it doesn't make sense obviously to have this layer potentially. But the bigger job.
I
Or what
mean,
do you
I
think?
would argue that point. So we
Okay.
did. I mean, we had projects that lasted a part of the day.
Yeah.
Crews that ran multiple projects in a day. We had projects lasted months.
Okay.
And we found value in being able to have the communication element. Like it. So what we're truly doing is eliminating a pain point that happens on every project. no matter how
Mm,
long it is,
I see.
communication becomes a problem. So if you only implement it in half the stuff you do, or 75% of the stuff you do, you have outliers. And when
Yeah.
we create outliers, we just created a whole nother issue within the business as we continue to grow, because now we have two separate operating systems.
Yeah.
I believe no
That's,
matter what the size of the job is, everything should flow the same. We should do the same thing. And this was hard, this was a hard thing
yeah.
to get to convey to guys that were doing 2-hour jobs over guys that were on jobs for weeks at a time.
Exactly.
Is you need to function the exact same on both jobs, because that little job, the job that takes 2 hours, those are typically the ones that blow your company up. It's
Yeah.
not the wrong jobs that you build such a deep relationship with that homeowner and the team functions well on. It's the little jobs that we just look at as being little jobs that end up costing us a lot of money because there's not a lot of profit in them. Every time you have to go back, it costs you even more. The missed opportunities that come out of them. So I think every job in your business should function the same way, no matter what the scope of work is.
That makes complete sense. And when you broke it down like that, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. You don't want to have this communication channel over here, this over there. Would it be something like when you schedule a job, then it would just, hey, this is going to be where we're communicating on this day or this time. Here's exactly where you're going to communicate. Everything's going to be in one place. Very simple for you to go here, get before and after pictures, ask questions before the job, after the job. That's kind of the premise.
Yeah, so that's how I built it,
Yeah.
was to be after the sale. You close the sale, you introduce them to builder comms.
Yeah.
Then I get guys out there using it and they tell me I'm wrong. And I was like, well, okay, tell me more.
Yeah.
I want to know, what am I wrong about? They're like, this is the greatest sales tool ever, because they're like, every homeowner wants to know how we're going to communicate at the point of
Mhm.
sale. So they started introducing it at the point of sale, saying, going forward, this is how we're going to communicate. This is how we will work the deal. And they're
Mm.
like, we are overcoming a concern, a possible rejection before it even comes up. And we are positioning ourselves different than everybody else that comes out there to bid the work. Because now we have said, we have thought about communication and we have invested in a platform to do that. And I was like, wow, I said, that right there is super smart. So I think it can, I don't think, I know it can be
Yeah.
used either from the point of sale as a major differentiator with your competition, or once that job's sold, as an operations side way to be able to manage the communication afterwards.
Yeah. I completely agree, and I could see in the sales process it builds a lot of trust and clarity. Of no, this is where we communicate. Here, test it out, see how it goes, and it's like, wow, this is a professional company. They have this whole. I'm not just texting a random guy, on an Android phone or something. Like green, it's green, it's not blue. Oh my gosh. Um, so what about? Do people ever ask you like, hey, could I brand this myself so that way it's like my own app kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. And we do that. We
Oh,
also do customization and licensing of it as
oh, okay.
well. That's actually our main bread and butter,
Yeah,
is
that's what I was
coming
thinking.
in and permanently fixing the communication problems for your business. So every construction business runs a little bit different, and I understand that. So what we do with our software is we can come in and take it. I say we're about 80% there most of the time. We can take it that last 20% for you. We can brand it however
Yeah.
you want to brand it, and leave you with a communication tool that actually fits your business. It's not just an off the shelf piece of
Mm,
software. It's an actual solution for you that you can use for the next decade plus. And then one of my favorite
yeah.
things to do is implementation. We offer implementation services where we can do it completely virtually, or I come out, I spend a week with you and your team, and we actually build out the processes and the systems around not just the software, but how you communicate as a company. And I use my skill set that I've developed over the last 15 years to actually leave you with something, not only a piece of software, but the ability to use it immediately. Because it typically takes about 6 to 9 months for your typical construction home service company to onboard a piece of software and actually become proficient in utilizing it. And it's one of the biggest hurdles we have with software in this space.
Yeah.
And I just thought, how do we not have that? And I'm like, let's help them do it. Like, let's get this up and going. So from day one, they are getting return on value for their investment in the software.
That's right. And from a sales and marketing perspective, if you have a branded app that if you just do a 2-hour job, but then, 6 months later, they have another thing that they can hit you up on the app and then communicate right there. And you're just like staying on their phone as this company that's going to be you use them for whatever the service is. It's a branded app that allows for instant communication. Sounds like that's a no-brainer from what I'm hearing. Like, makes complete sense.
And we have the ability for homeowners, there's a button right in there where they can request another project.
Yeah.
And it goes directly to who it needs to go to at that company to be able to get that sales rep out there on it immediately. And the great thing about it is, more about that project. It's not just a random, hey, we need more work done. You can see what all have you done, what was the customer like, all of that. Like, you now have a data set prior to going back out to do more work. And the same thing is with we have a refer button in there as well, so homeowners can refer people. And my thought process on that is, we used to get referrers all the time. And they'd be like, I need the same thing Joe Smo down the road had happened. And I'm like, well, what do we do for Joe Smo? We have 58 Joe Smos in the system. Like, we got to try to narrow it down so we know what we even did. Well, now it's connected to the person that sent that in. So you can look and see exactly what you did, reach back out to them and set up the appointment and be like, hey, yeah, we did that heating system for them. Let's come out. We'll take a look at your heating system. It makes... Data is so incredible in the construction space, and I didn't even build this as a data tool. I found out about how powerful data is afterwards from other people that kept coming up to me and going, do you know what you built? And I'm like, yeah, a communication platform. They're like, no, you built a data center of all the information we do not have on construction projects.
That's right.
I was like, all right, that makes sense. Let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah. A couple last questions here. So my sales and marketing brain's racking. Like, what about like push notifications? Can you put a push notification on the app that like they get a little red thing? Hey, got a message in here.
100%. So our very first customer, he thought, he felt like he was a great communicator. He probably was. But he did high-end renovations. We're talking $1 million plus renovations with a very elite clientele. And he looks at me and goes, Ron, these people won't respond to me. He's like, they think I'm a bad communicator, but he's like, they literally do not respond to my emails, my text messages. They think I'm one of their buddies that wants to have drinks after the day or go golfing or something. And they don't get back to me. And I need a way for them to understand this has to do with their project and there's urgency. So within the app, we push a notification when a message comes through to that homeowner.
Nice.
And he just simply explained, when you get a notification on the BuilderComs app, it's something that's pertinent to your project. If you want it to wrap up on time, I need you to take a look at it and respond to me. And it fixed his problem. Within a couple weeks of him doing this, he no longer had a problem of sending messages and not hearing back for days. And then he would take the blame that it was him delaying the project when it was really the homeowner. And I think we can all feel that pain.
Of course.
And we push notifications right through to whatever kind of phone they use.
Yeah, I love that, because I'm thinking like in HVAC, it's like you did an install, but then you need to do a spring tune-up, a fall tune-up. So push notification, it's time to schedule your spring tune-up. There you go. So I love it.
And another thing is you create a record of that. So
Yeah.
say they don't schedule it and something happens. And you're like, well, you can see here on March 14th, we reached out and tried to set up a proactive inspection
That's right.
and you never responded back. So like you can't be holding us accountable because your AC's not working and we're now in April.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
now have you're still creating that record.
Yeah, I agree. Last thing here, what about integrations like Service Titan or Pipedrive or whatever other CRMs that people are using out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have built out a Zap,
Okay.
so we integrate into just about anything that way. And when we get into the customization of this, is we can build it out through custom APIs. And like I said, my goal with that is to just make this system work with how your systems work. So we have integration capacities and we have real integration capacities as we move up the stream on what we do.
Wow, man, imagine I can just imagine you, applying for this foreman position, and then 15 years later, you're talking about APIs and coding and all this crazy stuff. It's like, man, where has this gone? Like, man, you're crushing it. I love that. I love that. Last thing, folks, I think I saw this is free, right? You have a free thing that people can just sign up for
Yeah,
that.
so our entry level version of it is completely free forever. It's
Yeah, sick.
that's I'm not I got out of the SaaS game
Yeah,
necessarily. Like I'm
yeah,
not in this race to whatever.
yeah,
I'm in the race to fix this problem for the industry.
yeah,
And one of the ways we can do that is the people that were paying on lower tier subscription weren't necessarily our ideal customers.
mm,
So I just scrapped it, said we're going to make it free. We're going to let them use it until they become our ideal customer with the
yeah,
thought process that by implementing this software in your business, we have a fantastic YouTube channel with training. They will be able to grow and scale their business to the point where they need more services from us. So yeah, we
yeah,
start out with a completely free offer.
yeah. I love it. Same exact thing with us. Like, just pump out content, help people. Once they get to the point of meeting us, they know where to find us. So I love that. Man, Ron, this is great. I really appreciate you sharing all this information. Just so many good things, and the kudos on this product. It sounds like it's amazing. So, where should people go to learn about it? Maybe sign up for it. It's free, so you might as well try it. What should they do?
Yeah, absolutely. You can jump on buildercoms.com, sign up for free there. You can also set up a demo, watch a video demo, 2 minutes, walk through the software, and you can connect with me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks, Ron. Really good to connect, man, and keep up the great work.
Hey, thank you. It's been fantastic, man.
Yes, sir. All right, see you, man.